That was a great debate we just had, Tim, wouldn't you say?
Yes, what a debate. Let's talk about it more. Kirk, you are currently the reigning and defending Fanzone debate champion.
And Hall of Famer.
And Hall of Famer, yeah, you're right. And I'm trying to pull up the Fanzone schedule. Of course, it is. There it is. We haven't seen you play yet this season because we're trying to get you a contender to play. But I just kind of wanted to talk to you about debate, your love, your I would assume love of it, and everything in between, all those things. So, why don't we start off with you won your last match against Brian to get that belt. He had beat you earlier in the season too.
Correct.
To get that belt from Cody. So what was it like to just become, I believe, the only 2-time Fanzone debate champion?
I honestly wouldn't have predicted it would have happened. Last year, just watching so many good, I mean, Brian especially, obviously, but so many new players coming in and so many players improving. I honestly kind of thought that maybe my time had passed and it was just, the time for new people to shine. And, the game was maybe going in a different direction that I wasn't keeping up with. So, I beat Holtzman in the, in the title picture. And, that was a tough fight. I pulled out by the skin of my teeth. Beating Jacoby, again, was not something that I expected. I mean, that's 3 in a row against him, and I did not expect to pull that off again. And then again, Brian was just on such a tear. I honestly didn't think he was going to be beatable for a while. So I went in that and just prepared my best, and that might have helped me because I was a little more relaxed. Really didn't feel like I had anything to prove, and I wasn't really super stressed out about it. And that probably, like I said, helped out with just my, kind of my outlook on the match and the way I went into it. And yeah, it was a great match and Brian played great. And, I ended up pulling it out.
Yeah. Match of the year, I believe, in Fanzone, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Or was it?
And cause I can reveal not all the voting, but as far as the voting went, it was like a 2-horse race between yours and Brian's 2 matches.
Yeah. Both great matches.
They are, yeah, they're both good. And honestly, like you said, like Brian coming off of the win against Cody, which I don't know that a lot of people thought would happen. Like Brian was on the tear, but Cody is just such a dominant force in debate. And then Brian getting a defense in there too before playing you, I think was super awesome for his legacy as far as like the run that he was able to do of like getting that defense in there. And Robert played well in that debate too. I think it was a 4-2 match. So that was a good fight too. So Nick, what you had something
I have a question, Kirk. How do you feel about the pre-written opening and closing style?
It's definitely not for me.
Okay.
I feel like if it works for somebody, I mean, Brian does a lot.
I think Brian does it very well, and I think
Yeah.
there's one other person that does it very well, which I don't want to spoil because they do it in an upcoming match that hasn't yet. But other than that, everyone I've seen try to do it, it doesn't come off right.
Honestly, for me, it's more that I'm just lazy. And to sit down and write like a minute's worth of copy is like because I've tried to do it before. I try to sit down like just even like bullet points, and I always work best like kind of off the top of my head. Like I usually go in with like I have notes of like where I want to take the argument and like the points I want to make and for me against the opponent, whatever. But I don't write a lot down just because I think that bogs me down personally. But yeah, the thing that impressed me about Brian is how he. He has his prepared opening, but he also has a prepared closing that he still somehow is able to encapsulate what's been said in the argument.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest part. It's like he's predicted what you were going to say throughout. And that's why it fails for other people because I'll throw out a name because Nico used to do this, and Nico would like go into the closing. No shot, Nico. If you're watching, we love you and all that. But Nico would go into the closing and read his prepared closing, and it would address nothing that was said by any team in the thing. And it's like, great prepared closing, but did you listen to the last 5 minutes? Brian either is like reading off of a bulleted thing and filling in the blanks in a way that's so good that it's like it's all written down, or he has literally predicted what the fight was going to be beforehand and wrote it down beforehand.
Yeah, I would guess it would be the former, which is what I used to do with my openings and closings. Especially like for my whole fight, whenever I would prepare for a fight, I would just put out bullet points. And there was a while there where, like Kirk said, I would like he doesn't want to get like bogged down by the points. I would get super stressed out about like I gotta hit all these things, and it kind of turned into my opening. I know what I'm gonna say about my thing. I'm not worried about what my opponent is doing unless I'm like really winning, and then I can be like, I can throw a shot here. I can throw a little but then in my free form, it's about hitting those points, and whatever I don't hit, I kind of encapsulate in my closings along with what my opponent said. So kind of like a mix, but like Kirk said, writing the opening and the closings down is not the way to go for Timmy. That's
not to sound like a dick, I write nothing down. Like when I debated, it was mostly off the cuff. Of
when I started, that's how I always did, and then once I got to title matches, I think I put a lot of pressure on it to write down, especially when it started getting into stuff I didn't know well. Like when I played Jacoby and he was like Midnight in Paris, and I was like,
no, I pretty much just forfeited those points before the match. Like Kirk used Night of the Living Dead against me, so I watched his scene and I watched my scene, and I was like, I could say this about it, but like I'm gonna win this, so like we'll just use this time to maybe make Kirk mad a little bit.
Is there ever, Kirk, that makes me think, like, has there ever been a moment where you've won a point that you were just like so utterly surprised you won? Like for me, like I remember winning a Doctor Who question against Coho, and I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who, and I felt like a god. Like, has there ever been like a moment for you like that where you were just like,
what did I beat? Just this past year against Holtzman, the musical question about it was it was some kind of best musical number and something. I forget the qualifier exactly, but I think I went with America in the Steven Spielberg West Side Story, and he picked another one. I forget exactly what it was. But I thought, okay, I have good points on this, but Holtzman knows his stuff inside and out.
Sure.
And he's going to hit me with, just terms and things that I don't know anything about. And I feel like a lot of times those are the ones I do the best on sometimes, because like there's always a point in a match where I'm like, I got this. Like just as soon as you see the answers, like I obviously have the right answer. And, and those are like 9 times out of 10 the point I lose because you go in too confident. But that was one where I really did not expect to win. And I built a good enough argument. Oh, he picked something from In the Heights. He picked it in the Heights song.
Oh, and, it was that's right. The 96,000.
Yeah,
I remember that fight. Now I remember that fight. Yeah, that's right.
And I was just able to eke it out. So that was definitely one I did not expect to win.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, do you remember your first debate in any league?
I
remember your first debate in a particular league. I don't know if it was the first time you ever did it, but it was my first introduction to you as well.
Yeah, that was my first. I'm trying to remember exactly who I played, but that was my first one.
Gregory is who.
Yes, yeah, okay. Grant wasn't my first. Grant was not my first. That league was my first. I'm trying to remember who I played there first. I don't think it's anybody who's around anymore. But yeah, that's where I got my start at.
Gregory.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Grant one, because if I remember correctly, Kirk, you did not win that.
I did not. Grant beat me.
And it was just to give you my perspective. I had never judged before. I had like debated once in that league.
Oh, you judged that?
Yep, I think I was 2-0 in that league, and now it's not a thing anymore.
Was that the one that we fought in, Nick?
No. Oh, yeah, it was, but that was like an exhibition thing. That's where I met you. But they brought me in, and Kirk comes in, and I don't know why I remember it so vividly, but Kirk was like, Grant, you're a nice guy, but I'm winning belts in this league, so, like, get out of my way. And I was like, oh, shit, this guy's coming in. This guy's coming in hot. And, don't know how Grant won. I'm sure I voted for him once or twice. I don't remember what any of the questions were. I don't remember why I was voting. I don't remember why I was there or asked to be there. But yeah, Kirk wound up losing, and I think about that sometimes because seeing where you are now, I don't believe Grant Gregory, who I don't know at all, by the way. Like, perhaps he's a nice fellow. I don't mean to, like, talk about you while you're not here to defend yourself. He is not in any Hall of Fames that I am aware of.
No, Grant was a good debater, and yeah, the one I do remember. The question was, "What would you, if you could pick one director from the past to bring into modern times and give them like all the technology?"
Tim, guess who? Wait, guess who Grant said?
Yeah.
Guess who Grant said?
From the Frank Capra.
Akira Kurosawa.
So Kirk had to argue against that.
Well,
great in this.
Yeah, my argument was I picked Ed Wood, and
Okay.
my reasoning is if you bring Kurosawa in and make his movies now, you're going to change his movies, and I don't want to see his movies are perfect. I don't want them to change, so I basically was shoving Ed Wood in front of that bullet, a director that nobody cares about. And nobody, really, it doesn't matter what he does. I was shoving him in front of Kurosawa.
You know what? I think I voted for Grant on that one.
You did.
Because I didn't like that. I didn't like that Kirk didn't pick a real choice, essentially.
Yeah, that's the gambit failed. The gambit failed. And that's
I remember you. I know nothing about Kurosawa's film, but you said something about a scene where they actually shoot a bunch of arrows at people.
Yeah.
There was no way to CGI that, so they actually had like a group of soldiers shoot arrows at another group of soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, like, bring that to today, and we don't get the like fear of actually being shot at. And I was like, that's a great point. And then Kirk was like, Ed Wood because he sucks. And I was like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, I was still figuring some stuff out back then. It was a fun debate, and I think I ended up losing that because that league was 5 rounds every time. I think they did 3. Or they always did 4 rounds and a speed round, no matter what. So I was up 2-0, and then he beat me. Then he just went on a 3-0 run. So, but got to start somewhere.
Do you hate the bonus round?
I mean,
the speed round.
Yeah,
no. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it like from a game perspective. I hate when I go there and I have to, it's mega stressful. I think for everybody.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think if anybody says they like it, they're lying because
that's the only thing. That was my favorite part.
See, because I feel like the whole game is just so much of prep and going in, and then that's all out the window. And there's so many X factors of what is the, what's the topic. What's the question? You never know what you'll get, and then it's like, here's the question, here's the topic, bam, go. And for people who have to prep, who like to prep and like to prepare, that's really hard to do. So I mean, I don't know, Tim. I don't know if you have my record up on it, like how well I do, and I think I'm probably about 500, I'd say, on the speed round.
You are 53%.
Okay, yeah. So right in the middle. So yeah, I mean, I'm not terrible at it. But I try to, I really do my best, in a title match where it's 4, regular rounds. I really try to get those 3 points early so I don't have to go to speed round.
Nick, why do you love it?
Because I didn't prep at all and it brought everyone down to my level. And that's just how it worked. Like I remember in that Marvel debate you're talking about, I beat your ass. Because no, I'm just kidding. I don't remember how. Somehow someone voted for me for pitching like the Spider-Man 3 train scene is better than the Spider-Man 2 train scene. You probably don't even know which one the Spider-Man 3 train scene is because it's not that important. But
the Sandman, that's what you were.
I'm talking to the audience. Like I say Spider-Man 2 and 3, and you're like, there's a train scene in Spider-Man 3. But anyway, I played Cody in the final, and at the time, I didn't know you or Cody. And Cody
I didn't even know that you played Cody in that. I didn't realize.
I played Cody in the final, and I lost unjustly, as everyone who has ever lost a debate says.
Yeah, right.
And I remember Cody called me a dick. And I was like, I don't know you. Why you calling me a fucking dick? Like, what? And he called me a dick because I would bring stuff up super late into the round and like give him very little time to refute it.
Oh, sure.
But the reason was because that's when I thought of it.
Yeah. That's fair.
So I specifically remember we had to argue like who would be a great villain for a Fantastic Four. And I said the Mole Man, and he said Super Skrull. And I remember, and the debate went on and on and on and whatever. And at the very end, I was like, wait a minute, having a Skrull would be dumb because the Fantastic Four aren't detectives. Like they're not a detective. They're not Batman. Like if you have a Skrull, it's a detective story because it's a who's who. You're trying to figure that out. And then they go, and time. And then all the judges were like, Nick said that thing about detectives was really great. And Cody was like, yeah, I didn't get to fucking say anything back.
That's funny. That is a yeah, that's tough. That always is.
So that's why I like speed rounds. Because
I will say this about the speed round. Maybe the most satisfying thing in the game is when you come up with a really good argument in speed rounds. One of my all-time favorite things I've done ever in debate is the first time I played Jacoby, and Nick, I don't know if you were here for that. Tim probably was. But the first time I played Jacoby in the speed round, the question was what DC hero should get a Lego movie?
I remember
and
that.
Jacoby went first and said Green Lantern. And I'm like,
I vividly remember that.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm thinking. So and I threw out Plastic Man, and I could tell by the judges' faces, they're like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Like, why?
I think I had to Google to confirm that was a real character.
Yeah. so like I'm just like, I lost this. Let's see what I can do with it. And I was able to grind out in however many seconds we have total to do that, and I was able to win with Plastic Man, and just come up with some really good shots against Green Lantern, and that's like one of the most satisfying points I've ever heard.
Those, I agree. I would agree with you. The those types of moments where you can come up with something really like quick off the top of your head and like actually convince everyone. Like I remember, and especially with like, I always say it when it happens, is like when someone can pick a bold choice and win off of it. I love that shit. Like I remember once, I forget who was fighting, but we just said like blanket, like best Pixar lead character. And somebody was like Woody. And their opponent was like Lightning McQueen. And we were like, dude, what are you doing? And Lightning McQueen won. And we were like,
it was Jacoby was definitely one of them.
Was it Jacoby? Yeah.
Jacoby definitely picked Lightning McQueen because I remember this.
Yeah, and it was like, so those types of moments are
and his argument was like Woody becomes a dick by the end. Lightning McQueen actually has a good like arc.
Yeah.
Woody never grows up or whatever.
Woody's a dick the whole time, but we love him. But I would agree. Those moments are phenomenal.
And anytime because I mean, so much of the speed round, and this is, I mean, I do, everybody does it, just nature of the beast. So much of it is just like throw in words at the wall and see what sticks. You know what I mean? You got to come up with something immediately. Anytime you're able to craft an actual argument and like come up with like real points to make that like the other person can't say anything against, and then actually tear down what they've said in a logical way, that's really fun to do. It doesn't happen that often, but it's fun.
Yeah, you're so right. Because like in the few judging appearances I make, I hate it more than anything when people just say like, this movie is the best movie because it's so good and it's well acted and it's so good and it's revered, and I'm just like, you're just saying
words,
provable random shit.
Yeah. That is the one thing. And I don't know that Brian watches this show, but if he does, I'm giving Brian a tip on things I like and don't like as a judge. But that is the one thing Brian still does that it is the weakest part of his game, is he always refers to Rotten Tomatoes, Oscars, awards. Like I don't like, you're not going to convince me with that information. Like your job is to convince me with the movie and with the stuff.
I beat Brian because he did that, I think.
Probably but I might have changed as a judge. But anyway,
Well,
oh, you're saying because he did that,
because he did me and Brian played before he took his break.
Yeah,
I beat him to play you. And I think I beat him because we were arguing about the Oscars, and he even brought up yeah, but Denzel Washington just won because he should have won it for a different one, and Leonardo DiCaprio should have won, but they gave it to him this time because they felt bad. And I ended it by being like, sounds like they don't mean a whole lot if they're just giving it to people because they forgot to give it to him last time.
Yeah, like that's one of those things where like it's just saying words that means nothing to the argument for me. Now, there is a time and a place for every type of argument. I think you could probably find an argument where saying the fact that something won an Oscar is a good point.
You really have to know who the who the judges are, first of all, and how they're going to respond to that. But also, I think you need it's something you could sprinkle in. I think that's a good like spice for an argument. Kind of like just like build around it. But that's the kind of that kind of like Tim said, subjective stuff. You gotta be careful